At this time, I call the annual town meeting to order. The fire chief has asked that I point out the fire exits, which are located on either side of the stage and out back at the end of each aisle. If you haven't already done so, please silence your cell phones or other electronic devices. Please rise if you can and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. The officer's return of this meeting warrant shows that it was properly served and posted. The moderator's rules are posted. They're also in front of the voter's guide. I'm not going to read every one of them. The only one I do want to touch base on is number 9. Anyone wishing to speak on any issue first must proceed to a microphone and be recognized by the moderator. The moderator will not entertain any speaking out of turn, and you must use a microphone unless otherwise permitted. You'll be asked to state your name and address every time you are given permission to speak. You may also be asked if you are speaking as a resident or on behalf of a board or committee. I need some hand counters. I need 2 from that far section. I need 2 for the middle, and I need 2 for over here. If you would please come forward, I'll swear you in. We can't start the meeting until this happens. I need 6, please. Don't be shy. Go ahead. There's 1. Sure. 2, 3, 3 more. I don't care what section you're in. I just need them count there, there, and here. I'll take care of the stage and the bottom down here. Okay, we're up to 4. I need 2 more. There's 5. Thank you. Just give me 1 second. Okay, thank you. We're just getting through some housekeeping issues. People are still arriving. That's why we try to do this in the same time period. With regards to the voting, when we do have a final vote, it's going to be all in favor, simply say yes. And if you're opposed, simply say no. Okay? All of my non-registered voters It is posted over there, but please, non-registered voters, yes, thank you. Wave, that's fine. Non-registered voters over there, please, okay? Whoever was counting that left-hand side, do not count the non-registered voters. They shouldn't be voting anyway, but don't count them, okay? And again, I'll take care of advisory committee, and I'll take care of the stage. All right, next we're going to do some introductions. There's been some changes. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Derek Hall. I am the moderator. What I'm going to simply do is we're just going to go around the stage. We'll go down here on the bottom. It's just a simple introduction, so when somebody is up here, hopefully they state their name anyway, but at least we kind of know a name of the face if this is the first time you're meeting them.
Carol Harris, Town Clerk.
Tom Harrington, Town Council.
Katie Stock, Town Council.
John Caplis, Board of Selectmen Chairman.
Diane Haley Brooks, Board of Selectmen Vice Chairman.
Doug Morrison, Board of Selectmen.
Good evening, Carter Terranzini, Town Administrator.
Wilfred Spring, Advisory Committee.
Amy Guthrie, Advisory Committee.
Lee Guthrie, Advisory Committee.
Jeffrey Bennett, Advisory Committee.
Mike Curry, Advisory Committee.
Debbie Wilder, Advisory Committee.
Tony DeJoy, Advisory Committee.
Okay, thank you very much. Again, it was just trying to put a name of the face real quick. We have had some changes or whatever. Another housekeeping issue. As you came in on the table out there, there is a survey for improving the town meeting. We've had a public meeting on it as well, and if you wouldn't mind, you can fill out the survey, suggestions, comments, whatever. We're trying to make it more efficient, faster, however you want to consider it. We're open to whatever you have for suggestions. If you don't use the paper copy, there are also, it's a monkey survey on the internet, and the address is on the back of that form as well. Again, your input is appreciated. Okay, Article 1.
Mr. Moderator, I move to authorize the payment of late bills from prior fiscal years from the FY19 budgets of the following departments in the following amounts. DPW Highway Division, $1,269. DPW Buildings and Grounds, $288.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
John Caplis, I second that.
Thank you. Advisory Committee.
Mr. Moderator, the Advisory Committee recommends in favor of this article.
Thank you. Further discussion on Article 1.
Mr. Moderator, I apologize, Diane Haley Brooks. I forgot to say my name.
Okay. And I apologize for not catching it, so you probably shouldn't have. Yeah, it's all good. Okay. No more doing that. That's our one warning. Okay. Discussion, Article 1. And again, guys, if you can grab those microphones if you... Okay, thank you. Further discussion, Article 1? Okay. All in favor of Article 1 signify by saying yes. Yes. Opposed? No. Article 1 passed at 7:09 p.m. Okay. This is a 9/10 vote. It definitely passed by 9/10. I just want to make that clear. Thank you. And again, it passed by 9/10 at 7:09. Okay, Article 2.
Mr. Moderator, Article 2, John Caplis, by the way. I move to appropriate the sum of $50,000 and no cents for supplemental appropriations to fiscal year 2019 operating budget as follows. Selectmen, $7,500 for litigation and codification. Veteran Services, $12,500. Growth and client census. Highway, $15,000. Main Street Bridge and vehicle maintenance. Town accountant, $5,000. Coverage for med leave. Snow and ice, $10,000. FY19 deficit. And to meet said appropriation by transfer of some said from certified free cash.
Thank you. Motion, do I have a second?
Diane Haley Brooks, I second that motion.
Thank you. Advisory Committee.
Mr. Moderator, the Advisory Committee recommends favorable action for this article.
Thank you. Further discussion, Article 2. Just 1 second, the microphone's, yeah, he's going to help you. Yep.
Julie Farrell, resident, 24 Myrtle Street, Baldwinville. My question should be fairly easy answered. How much money is in certified free cash?
How much money is in certified free cash?
Before or after the appropriations?
My apologies, Carter Terenzini, Town Administrator. Are you asking for the amount before all of the proposed appropriations or after all of the proposed appropriations?
I'm asking for the amount right now that is in free cash.
Sure. Approximately $1 million.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion, Article 2. Mike, if you could shut that off, please. Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. Exactly. Yeah, fine. Okay. All in favor of Article 2 signify by saying yes. Yes. Opposed? No. That passed at 7:12 p.m. Article 3.
Mr. Moderator, I move to appropriate the sum, Diane Haley Brooks. I apologize again. I move to appropriate the sum of $17,500 for legal services in connection with the sale of Baldwinville Elementary School, planning, review, and support of potential zoning amendments and negotiations of host community agreements with parties desiring to cultivate, process, and retail cannabis in the community, and to meet said appropriation by a transfer of said sum from certified free cash.
Thank you. Motion.
John Caplis, I second that.
Second, Advisory Committee.
Mr. Moderator, Advisory recommends in favor of this article.
Okay, discussion on Article 3.
Has this building?
Julie.
Oh, Julie Farrell, 24 Myrtle Street, Baldwinville resident. My question is, has the Baldwinville Elementary School been turned over to the town from the school district?
Carter Terenzini, Town Administrator. The building has not yet been declared surplus by the school district. This vote is anticipation of that vote. Also, there are other activities in other elements of the cannabis industry, Most notably, we have one application for retail sales in hand, and we expect a second one within the next 1 or 2 weeks. So hopefully that gives you the full overview.
Yeah, you can follow up. Go ahead. Sure.
Julie Farrell, 24 Myrtle Street, Baldwinville. This article specifically states it's for legal services in connection with the sale of Baldwinville Elementary. Could these funds be used for a second proposed facility?
Carter Terenzini, Town Administrator. So these funds can be used for, one, the sale of papers in connection with Baldwinville Elementary School. It can be also used for the planning review and support of potential zoning amendments in other areas of the community. The one being envisioned is at Baldwinville. And it can be used for negotiations of host community agreements with parties desiring to cultivate, process, and retail cannabis in the community. Those are separate elements of the authorization. So should the Baldwinville building not be declared surplus and that not go forward, we would still have authority to deal with the other aspects of the cannabis industry that are before us.
Thank you. Further discussion? Article 3.
Teresa Griffiths, 12 Drury Lane. I just was wondering if the resale value after this, once the building's sold, if it is for marijuana and that is the industry saturated, how will the resale of that building be affected? Will that be a part of the study, the resale of that building after the marijuana industry is saturated?
That would be the subject of negotiations. I don't know of any reversion clauses or use restrictions that would be put in place at this point. Any reuse of the property would have to be consistent with zoning at the time of the sale. I would not anticipate right now any use restrictions beyond that.
Thank you. Further discussion? We're turning the microphone on. Yep, it's okay. I think you hold it down for like 3 seconds and then we're good.
Yeah, Dana Blaze. Is it on?
Is the green light on?
Test. All right, Dana Blaze, 20 Turner Street. My question is, did the town ever get an appraisal cost of the building? Get the building appraised?
Carter Terenzini, Town Administrator. We did engage, I can't remember their name, a independent appraisal of the property. The offered price is substantially above that market valuation.
Okay, thank you. Further discussion, Article 3.
Test. Steve Drury, 18 Drury Lane. $17,500 in connection to the potential zoning amendments. Can you tell me if these zoning amendments are, is this prior, these decisions already been made? Is it zoned for cannabis? In other words, can cannabis go there? There's no zoning issues? Or is this $17,500 for the being paid to someone to discover whether it can go there?
Carter Terenzini, Town Administrator. The current zoning at Baldwinville does not allow for the permitted uses. Therefore, we must go through, in conjunction with the Planning Board, a series of public hearings and the drafting of zoning amendments for this body to consider at some time in the fall.
Right, so
and that decision will be made by this body at the time those are presented. The first public hearing, assuming this vote tonight, is a positive one. In that process, we'll be on June 4th, inviting the neighborhood and the community at large to begin the process of looking at zoning, looking at neighborhood concerns, safety concerns, everything associated with it. These fees would all be primarily incurred with town council. We don't feel that we can absorb this effort within our normal legal budget, which is why we've asked for these separate standalone monies.
Further discussion, Article 3.
Thank you.
Tony.
John Warden, Baldwinville Road. My question is quite simple. If this is voted down, will that, for the time being, keep marijuana out of our town?
John Kaplis. If this vote is turned down, then yes, it will definitely impact the process of the sale of the Baldwinville Elementary School and the use of growth in cannabis within the confines of Templeton.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Further discussion, Article 3.
Oh, I didn't see him, I'm sorry. I walk in front of you? Here, I wouldn't do that.
Greg Griffiths, 12 Drury Lane, Templeton, Mass. Firstly, I noticed that the numbers
Sir.
here are.
Your name and address, please.
I just gave it.
sorry.
Greg Griffiths, 12 Drury Lane, Templeton, Mass. Again, second time. One of the things I notice is that a lot of these numbers here are very, very round, which in normal accounting practices is not likely to happen. I find that to be very discouraging and disappointing. Also, I noticed that some of these things aren't broken down into an itemized kind of like, this is what we really need it for, and this is how we intend to spend it, which that's something that should be done. I would like to express also disappointment that we would actually spend this kind of money in order to bring a marijuana business into our community. I don't think it's needed. I don't think it's necessary, and I'm definitely against it, so that's my opinion, sharing it with you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion.
Hi, I'm Beverly Bartolomeo. I live at 686 South Road. I know probably more than most people that we need revenue in this town in the worst possible way. And unless we get revenue, the people that live in this town, only the rich people are going to be able to live here. Having said that, what bothers me about this article is the fact that you don't even own the land yet, or the building. It seems that you should have had the school turn it over to you and then do all this stuff. It just doesn't make any sense.
Okay, further discussion, Article 3. Yes, sir.
John Thomas, Crossroad. Is this for the fiscal year that ends in another month and a half?
Carter Terenzini, Town Administrator. This is a standalone article, so it does not expire until the purposes of the article are expired. So it doesn't end in 6 weeks.
Because it appears to say fiscal 2019.
A
So I thought
2019
that was-
supplemental special article. It's not part of the operating budget.
So why wasn't it just put into the 2020 budget for everyone?
Well, in part because we thought that it should be standalone to be a test of whether or not the community wanted to go forward at all. This community did vote, as did many communities, to legalize marijuana. But before we go and spend, even if we had the money in the budget to deal with that, and we don't believe our regular operating budget would, we thought that it was important to test the waters before we spent this kind of money on this effort and put the community through it. And I'd like to say that one of the reasons we're proceeding, one, is the new school building is almost open. And while it has not been surplused, ideally, we would have been at a point where we could have brought you formal proposals. Waiting until the school building is empty to then sort out what to do with it means it sits there empty, subject to vandalism, potential damage, potentially having to go onto a very expensive surplus properties insurance policy. So whenever we know a building is coming due in a community to be surplus, I try to be as far ahead of the curve as I can so that it sits there as idle for as short a period of time as possible, so we can get it back into productive use as quickly as possible.
Thank you. Further discussion, Article 3.
Tony DeJoy, 8 Minute Man Drive. I was a member of the Baldwinville Elementary Reuse Committee. So your thoughts on what it should be used for, that's your own thoughts, and I don't mind. We took hours, members of the select board, people of the community, to put a proposal package together. We sent it out. We had we received one proposal for the property. So we really didn't have a choice of what we could use it for. We need to get the building off our rolls. It's going to cost far more than $17,500 a year to upkeep that building when it's sitting there idle. You just can't have it go into to decay. So the proposal is online if anyone wants to look at it, as far as what we sent out to the community, not the actual proposal that came in. So a lot of work was put into the sale of this building, and unfortunately, however you feel, we received one proposal for the building.
Thank you. Further discussion, Article 3.
Hi, Mr. Moderator. Robert May, 137 Shady Lane. I don't like spending the $17,500, especially in this environment. That I will tell you. But I do have to say that on this article, I am impressed with one thing that I haven't seen in the recent past here in Templeton, which is planning. We have a school that's going to be vacant within a few months, period. It just is. That school's either going to cost us every year or it's going to cost somebody else. We're either going to get taxes from that building or we're going to just keep on paying for it until it falls apart. I think the idea that we have somebody who's willing to buy it, that somebody will be paying property taxes on it, that somebody will also be paying 3% marijuana tax on it, and that party will be employing people in Templeton, I think are all things that Templeton needs, and I think you need to look really long and hard before you say no to probably the first GD thing that's been going in the right direction here in a while. So.
Further discussion. Further discussion, Article 3.
Hi, Robert Ranieri, 138 Brooksfield Road, Templeton, Mass. I agree with the last gentleman. The only issue I have is, I won't say what my occupation is, but I'm in the law enforcement community, and I think one of the issues with this is, yes, we might have a building that's sitting there, but the reasons why these dispensaries and these businesses have to hire security, there's a reason why they're hiring security, because people that are undesirable to our community are going to want to come in and get at those places. That's just one thing I'm saying from my point of view, that yeah, I agree. I pay taxes in this town just as much as everybody else does, but what are we giving up? We worry about paying taxes, but in the return, if we vote yes on this and we get a pot company to come in realistically into our community, what are we getting? What are we bringing into our town, and what type of undesirables are we going to start to attract? So Again, I'm not saying I vote either yes or no either way, but it's definitely something we should look into, because just with the prison being in Gardner and from people, different families coming in and moving into this community as it is, we might be attracting some more people that we don't want in this community with this business in town. Thank you.
Further discussion, Article 3.
Steve Drury, 18 Drury Lane. The marijuana business is a legitimate business. The marijuana business is profitable. It's totally regulated. There's more security in a marijuana facility than in a police station. The bottom line is that I worked for 25 years to legalize marijuana. I'm going to tell you all right now, that ain't going anywhere. The federal government has just made marijuana, or let's say hemp, which is the same plant, completely legal. The amounts of money that are going to be made by legal cannabis is outstanding. It's just unbelievable. And the many products that are going to be made and the environmental situations is going to be wonderful. The only real concern that I would have is how fast we can get it going. The bottom line is that we need to change this situation. They had 100 years of prohibition, and now they're complaining about security. And I can tell you this, right? The best security there is for cannabis is legitimizing it. That's why we did it. That's why we did it. You know, we wanted it to be legit. So I'm in favor of this bill, and I would ask to move the question.
Okay, it has been asked to move the question. Do we have a second on that?
Second.
Is this still working? Okay. So we're voting on is moving the question. Okay. All in favor of moving the question, which is Article 3, signify by saying yes. Yes. Opposed? No. Okay. So it passed to move the question at 7:32. Now we're actually voting on Article 3. All in favor of Article 3 signify by saying yes. Yes. Opposed? No. That passed at 7:33. Article 4.
Mr. Moderator, Diane Haley Brooks. I move to appropriate the sum of $130,000 and no cents to make deposits into its operations, OPEX, and capital CapEx stabilization funds and the OPEB reserve accounts as follows. OPEX, $92,500. CapEx, $22,500. OPEB, $15,000. And to meet said appropriation by a transfer of said sum from certified free cash.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
John Kaplis, I second that.
Thank you. Advisory Committee.
Mr. Moderator, the advisory recommends in favor of this article.
Thank you. Further discussion, Article 4.
Thank you. Julie Farrell, 24 Myrtle Street, resident. I have two questions. How much do we have in each account currently, the OPEX, the CapEx, and the OPEB? And there's the amount that's being voted out from certified free cash is $130,000. In the explanation of the article, it says the DOR certified an amount of $275,000 higher. So where is the additional 145,000? Where is it currently and where is it going? Thank you.
Carter Terenzini, Town Administrator. We currently have $463,000 and some short change in the OpEx stabilization. This deposit will make it around $555,000. We have $108,000 and some short change in the CapEx, the capital stabilization. This deposit will make it a little bit above $130,000. In the OPEB reserve, we have $148,000 and some short change, and this will make it $165,000. The formula that we established, the board established, takes a percentage of free cash, not the entireties of free cash, and lays out how to use that. So the remainder of the free cash that's not being appropriated out of that 270 and change is being used both for the capital articles that will follow here a bit later tonight, and some is being rolled into next year in keeping with the formulas established by the board in the financial management policy, which we did distribute at length at the fall town meeting and is available on our website.
Does that answer your questions? Okay. You want another one? Okay. You can follow up with Gad. Sure, yeah. Mhm.
Julie Farrell, 24 Myrtle Street, Baldwinville. For the OPEB account, has the actuarial study been performed to ascertain how much money the town of Templeton needs to have in its OPEB accounts? Thank you.
Carter Terenzini, Town Administrator, yes. In conjunction with the FY18 audit, we carried out a valuation both of the general fund liability and the sewer fund. My apologies, I can't remember those numbers offhand, but if you'd like to contact me via email, I'll be happy to get that for you early next week.
All right, further discussion, Article 4. Further discussion, Article 4. All in favor of Article 4 signify by saying yes. Yes. Opposed? No. That passed at 7:37 p.m. Article 5.
Mr. Moderator, Doug Morrison. Article 5, I move to appropriate a consent agenda consisting of the following non-controversial actions or take any other action relative thereto. Such items may be voted as a block or singularly or in any combination, but however voted will be treated for accounting and legislative purposes as if each item were voted as a separate article. A, reports of town officers. Accept the reports of the town officers as printed in the 2018 town report. B, reports of town committees. Allow any of the town committees to present their reports. C, set annual spending limits of revolving funds. Set the annual spending limits of the town's previously created revolving funds as follows. Burial and Improvement Fund, $10,000. Recycling Fund, $10,000. Plumbing and Gas Inspector Fund, $7,500. Electrical Inspector Fund, $12,500. And Community Services Fund, $10,000.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
John Capels, I second that.
Thank you. Advisory Committee.
Mr. Moderator, the advisory committee recommends in favor of this article.
Thank you. Further discussion, Article 5. Mike, you're just coming back? Okay. Further discussion, Article 5. All in favor of Article 5 signify by saying yes. Yes. Opposed? No. That passed at 7:39 p.m. Article 6.
Mr. Moderator, Doug Morrison. Article 6, I move to raise and appropriate the sum of $7,479,406.00, or some lesser amount, to fund the town's assessed share of the cost of the Narragansett Regional School District for FY20, contingent upon the passage of a ballot question pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 59, Section 21C, subsection G, Proposition 2.5.
Diane Haley Brooks, I second that motion.
Thank you. Advisory Committee.
Mr. Moderator, the advisory recommends in favor of this article.
Thank you. Further discussion, Article 6.
I believe this would just be a point of order, Mr. Moderator. Robert May, 137 Shady Lane.
Yes, point of order. Go ahead.
I believe this needs to be a 2/3 vote based on MGL 71, Section 16B.
Okay. We disagree with that. Thank you for the point of order, but it's a majority vote. Thank you. Further discussion, Article 6.
Beverly Bartolomeo, 686 South Road, Templeton. Does this include the override?
John Kaplis. Yes, this includes the override.
Okay, then I think I would like to ask someone, maybe Luann, what our tax rate is now, what it's going to be with the school and the police station on it, and what will add so that when everything lands, everybody's going to know what they're paying. Thank you.
Luann, I will let you speak if you would want to. I don't know if you have those numbers in front of you, but you are, that's up to you. I will let you speak as a non-resident. Again, I don't know if you have those numbers or whatever.
I have
allowing
some
to
of
happen.
them, yeah. Luann Royer, Deputy Assessor for the town. Our tax rate right now is $17.24. If the school override goes, I think it's approximately $988,000. Included in that would be a $1.50 increase on your tax rate per $1,000 on your assessed value of your house. So if you do the math, that is. I did speak to the town accountant and the town administrator today, and they told me that the police station debt is already on the tax roll through the bonds that they've already borrowed last year and this year. And the rest of the school system will be going on. Hopefully, if we get occupancy, the drawdown's done, we get final approvals and submittals of the bills, that will also go on your tax rate. Until they go out to borrow for bonds, unfortunately, I can't tell you how much that will be also increased to your tax bill.
Go ahead. Yeah, he was next. That's fine. Yep. One second. Yep.
Paul Quattrocchi, 2 Military Drive. I've supported the school budgets for a number of years. This year, I do not support it. I'd like to tell you why. It seems every year we're getting more and more 2.5 overrides. And I don't see where it's doing any good. For one thing, you get an override this year and it goes to what you voted for. Next year, it goes to the town budget. This won't go to the schools next year. Next year, the school will come in for another override. It's getting ridiculous. We're becoming an override town. The override was supposed to be an exceptional thing, not a regular thing. We have one every year. We use the rescue squad to pay town bills. We use kids to pay the school. But the school isn't going to get this money next year. For many years, I've advocated that when you get an override, the following years, that override goes for what you voted for. That's not happening. So I'm against this override, and I'm against the school budget this year for it.
Mr. Moderator. Mr. Moderator.
Where are we at? Oh, I'm sorry. John, yes, just 1 second. And people, just so you know, we're using the microphones, and I had the same thing. I don't know if it's where I'm standing or what, but if you could just speak up so everybody could hear, that's all. Did you have a point of order?
No, I was going to try to answer that gentleman's question. I think it was kind of a question as far as, I took it as a question.
Okay.
And I took it kind of,
I get you.
and I took it kind of personally when, to sit there and say that the override dollars aren't going to where their appropriated override was supposed to be, and they are. Since I've been in office, and I went back to at least 2009, and all the overrides, in fact, I looked at all the overrides this town had in its entirety, in its history, and how many have passed and how many have failed, and why they failed, and did some research. All the overrides that have gone through are going directly to the resources because that's where they're needed, to include the last year's override concerning the 911 ALS service. What you folks don't understand is, things cost money, and it's one of those things that we don't have the ability and the resources to complete the services that you want to require with the limited resources that we receive in tax dollars. That is the facts. I said that when I first got elected 3 years ago. You don't have to be smarter than a fifth grader to realize and know that if you don't have the dollars, then you can't provide the services. That's just how it works. And we're trying to move this community forward, not backwards. And unfortunately, everybody around us is catching up, and yet we're still at $17.24 a thousand. And obviously, I am definitely for this override. We need to open the school. We need to get the school functioning. And and what should have happened and what could have happened, I'm not going to sit here and wonder why, when you voted for a school, not once, not twice, but 3 times to include a ballot vote. But what should have also entailed with that is maybe a projected dollar amount figure on the same override, on the same ballot that you voted for the school. That way you can understand the concept of almost a $700,000 dollar amount of monies that are going to need just to open the school. That's the realism of it. That's the facts. It's online. It's on the website. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I'll take that as an answer. Paul, did you have a follow-up with that? Or do you have a separate question, or? You have a follow-up? Go ahead, because we took it as a question. That was an answer.
Paul Quattrochi, 2 Military Drive. We take and we say that we don't have the money, that we're trying to move the town forward. I don't know where we're trying to move the town. Maybe we want to become a city. As it is now, the Board of Selectmen don't tell us that much at the town meeting.
Use the microphone.
All right. I thought my voice carried everywhere. But we're a small town, approximately 7,500 people. Personally, I don't want to get any bigger. I don't want to be a city. I don't think the majority of the people here want to be a city. I think we have to cut and live within our means.
Okay. He still has the microphone, please.
Now, I don't know how many people here can afford a raise in their taxes. It's getting out of hand, and we're not doing the job. Most of this money is going to go for the new school, but not all of it. Not all of it goes for the new school. Where's the rest going? The pamphlet we got in the mail today doesn't tell you that. It just tells you that you either vote for it or you don't. If you don't vote for it, they're going to cut 19 positions. Well, where those positions are being cut? We've had these teachers all along. We certainly didn't fire them because we closed the school. Now, I'm for a good education for our kids. I don't have any kids in school, but I will fight for kids to have a good education. I've been a teacher for many years before I retired, finally. The point is, we're not doing the job. We're giving the money to the wrong place. And if we're going to do this, why don't we do a debt exclusion for 1 year if it's to open the new school? Let's do a debt exclusion, because 1 year on the tax rolls and then it disappears. When you vote for this one, when you vote for an override for 2.5, it goes on forever. It doesn't stop. And it gets bigger every year. And it doesn't go to the schools. Now, if we're going to do overrides, let's give it to the people it belongs to. And let's give it to them every year. And not take it away and put it in the town budget. I've been out there. I've had to live within our town budget. So that's why I'm against it. I'm not against the school. I'm not against the school budget per se. I want the kids in this town to have a good education. And I'll fight for that. And I have fought for it in the past.
Okay, Paul, thank you. Further discussion? Go ahead, sir.
Hi, Robert May, 137 Shady Lane. Just a couple things on point here. If this article passes, it raises the money for the school. Along with the budget for the town, that increases our budget over last year, which was $8.69 million, to $10.67 million this year. It's $1.972 million more than last year. You know, simple math, Mr. Kaplis talked about simple math. I'll give you simple math. $1 raises $658,000 in Templeton this year. So you take $1.9 million and divide it by 658. You know, that's how much your taxes are going to be affected. One way or the other, it's $3. Whether it's money they have, money they don't have, it's $3 of your tax dollars that are going to pay for this increase this year. And that does not include another $12 or $14 million that's going to be put on in bonds next year for the school, which will be about another $1.25, $1.12, something like that. For myself, it's a $900 bill. Last year's was a $450 bill additional. Next year's is another $350, $360 already. My money running out. You know, I have nothing against the school. I have something against the school budget. I think an education is a wonderful thing. I think more money doesn't make things better. I think more money makes things more expensive. And I am not in favor of this budget because I think it's too much money at a time when I can't afford it. I don't think this town can afford it. It's $2 million for the school. That's 22.8% on top of last year's budget in 1 year. Just too much for me. Thank you.
Thank you for the discussion. Go ahead, sir.
Tony DeJoy, 8 Minute Man Drive. I think something that needs to be pointed out is this could be a lot worse if it wasn't for our school administrator and his staff bringing additional funds in that 10 years ago weren't. A lot of people don't know that Templeton is, in the Narragansett Regional School District, is a school of choice for people to come into. They have a waiting list now for people to come in. It wasn't always that way. So they're actually bringing revenue into the town, into the school budget for school choice. They've increased the Medicaid subsidies that we get from Medicaid for different services fourfold in the last 2 years. So this could be a lot worse. And it's going to get worse if this doesn't pass. Phillipston Elementary is going to end up closing, at least for 1 year, and it's going to cost everybody a whole lot more. So it's a kind of, you can pay now or you're going to pay later, and it's going to cost a whole lot more later. So nobody wants to raise taxes. All of us on this board and the select board spent many hours going over the budget this year. It was my first time. It was eye-opening. We looked to cut the budget to wherever we can. Nobody is getting anything extra. It just was not going to be allowed. So nobody, like I said, nobody wants to pay more taxes, but it costs to live in a community. It just does. You have to have the services. So you need to have services, and unfortunately, it's on the townspeople to pay for those services. So it's pay now or pay later, but the bills are going to come due, and the town, we don't want the town going into receivership like it almost did a few years back. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion. Article 6.
Mr. Moderator, Steve Drury, 18 Drury Lane, Templeton, Mass. I would like to, I'm in favor of this. And that may sound interested or strange to some people, but you know, the bottom line is the undesirables cost us $35,000 to $40,000 to put them in prison. And I'm going to tell you straight out, we need to educate. Education's the best thing you can invest in, and it's going to cost me $400 more, and because I don't have I have a post stamp for land, but I'm going to do that because of the investment that's been placed in $68 million of 120 in the 30-year span. More importantly, though, I'm not just thinking of the little kids. I'm thinking that maybe one of them kids might cure cancer from the THC that's going to be around.
Thank you, Mr. Jury.
No, wait a minute. I'm not. I didn't make a joke. I was serious.
I am too. There's no THC on this article.
Well,
Stick to
no.
the article.
I'm trying to say to the fact is that when we need innovative people that design things. I've heard a lot of complaints here, and if I may say this, we can e-learn students from computers. I have brought this up, and I know right now that Trump is ready to take federal funding away from the schools everywhere. And I also know that if we don't change our whole course of thinking and teaching, then we're going to be in this situation. And I can tell you that you can put this money in here and you can start training kids through their computers, even homeschooling through the computers, and you can do a lot better job. And that school is going to be a perfect place because it's going to be a smart school to have all the classes and be sent back out to all of the individuals out there. And of course, as I understand, there's enough computers. They just bought some. So my bottom line is that I can't afford it. I'm telling you straight out. But you know what? I was a little kid once, and I went to this school, and I'm asking you to vote yes.
Okay, thank you. Further discussion.
Mr. Moderator, Bernard Heaney, 716 Ballinville Road, Ballinville. I too believe that we've got to open up this new school. However, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, DESE, calculates a minimum required amount for every school district in Massachusetts to contribute to their school system every year. They also calculate a pie in the sky, someday hope we'll make it, and it's called a target amount of money. For the last consecutive 11 years, our town has contributed over the target. Every year, the school committee comes out and wanting another 100,000 or another 200,000, and I don't understand why that's happening, because I don't understand. I think I should go to the school committee meetings more often. Another figure that that DESI calculates is a budget figure for the school to spend. I forget the name of that figure, that number, but it's an amount of money that the school must spend every year to provide a good education for our children. 2 years ago, we spent 72% over that amount of money. Much, much more than the surrounding towns around around Templeton. And I personally think it's about time that the school and the school committee start paying closer attention to their budgeting and cost control.
Thank you. Further discussion, Article 6.
Marita Fuller, 110 Highland Avenue, Ballinville, Mass. I was just wondering if there's anybody that could speak in behalf of this vote and find out what is going to be the consequence of not voting for this tonight. So everybody understands that when we don't vote for this, we'll have bigger class sizes and schools closing.
I believe I see the superintendent in the non-voter area. I will let him speak on that. Sure. Come on up.
Good evening. Chris Castrian, Superintendent. Okay, there's a lot of information that's come out here. I need to remind folks that a year ago, a reorganization committee formed between two towns. We identified an issue at that point in time that the district as a whole is not, or is currently not, financially stable enough to handle to support financially two traditional K through 5 elementary schools. We said that. We looked at other options. We looked at looking at what we could do to be more financially, fiscally stable, smarter. On, I believe it was April 24th, 2018, there was a meeting here, and that was summarily shut down. Your school committee then, with that charge, funded a fully funded budget based on that. So I'm going to go back to say that this budget is funded with the wishes, in a sense, of how it is currently configured. Now, I realize that it's easy to say, and it has a lot of emotion behind it, okay? But it is obviously my personal opinion, my professional opinion as well, as a former business manager and as the superintendent, to let you know, and it's my fiduciary responsibility to let you know, that as we move forward, based on how we are configured today, this is going to be an issue. It boils down simply. If we cherish, both towns cherish, the K through 5 model in which it currently exists, then it's going to cost. If you do not, and you don't want to raise taxes, then things have got to change. What I was hopeful, what the organization committee was hopeful to do, was to at some point, probably in February, when we had the joint board meeting, was to be able to present two options, because we'd have had a whole year to work on this, and say, here is option A. You're currently configured this way, and it is going to cost you this. Or we can think about reconfiguring, doing something different, and it's going to cost you this. At that point, ladies and gentlemen, you now have a decision, right? You can now start looking at the information and making a qualified, an educated decision. When nothing came about, and the folks came out and were very vocal about not wanting the change, you, in essence, both towns, have asked that this budget be funded fully how it currently is configured. So I want to make sure that I understand everything. Trust me, We have done a lot of talking on this. Shout out to my Facebook friends out there somewhere, okay? We've done a lot of talking. The message has been the same since the beginning. We're going to have to think different, or we're going to have to keep paying, because it boils down to foundation enrollment. Now, just one quick, and I'll sit and wait to answer more questions, Mr. Moderator. I have to say this, and I certainly don't want to start anything, he says jokingly, but the fact, and the gentleman who spoke about the override monies, I'm sorry, sir, I couldn't catch your name. The amount, close to was it $988 for Templeton? Be clear, $820,000 of that is needed for the school budget. $167, which by the way, completely appropriate and legal in the statute, absolutely correct. You do not have to give one dime of that money, override money, to what it was going for originally the following year. We have in our additional appropriation line, minus $167. Perfectly legal and appropriate. But I can't sit here, after speaking so many times, and letting you know that that $988 is simply for the school, because it is not. I don't know if I've answered all the questions that came about. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. Julie, go ahead. Yes, thank you. Yep, further discussion, go ahead. Do you have a question or a comment, something?
Yes, I do. Julie
Okay.
Farrell, 24 Myrtle Street, Baldwinville. One of the issues I had with this question is the way it is worded, in that it does not insert the dollar amount of the override in the actual vote in the motion. I would like to present a substitute motion. I have it in writing, and I'm going to read it here. I move to raise and appropriate the sum of $6,491,070.00 to fund the town's assessed share of the costs of the Narragansett Regional School District for fiscal year 2020. And I move to fund the Narragansett Regional School District an additional sum of $988,000 contingent upon the passage of a ballot question pursuant to General Law, Chapter 59, Section 21C, G, Proposition 2.5, so-called.
That's in writing?
It is.
I'll take it, please. Okay, sorry about that, Julie. What I'm being told is that the motion is out of order, okay? And that basically we can't break it up. If you'd like to reduce the amount, that's a different story. But you can't break up this amount and that amount. That's what I'm being told legally.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, further discussion. Article 6.
Am I on? Mike Curry, Hubbardston Road. I'm going to direct myself this way because I can tell you from here on up, we've talked about this at length, and there's been a lot of yeses and nos. So it's not like your town committees and boards have railroaded you into this situation, hardly. And thank you, Chris, for being quite emotional about it because it is an emotional subject. The first speaker came up here and started talking about turning this town into a city. I don't think so. We have 7,500, 8,000, whatever the last census was. We're not close to a city. No one wants to become a city. But we do want growth. We do want revitalization in the infrastructure that we have. I have kids in Baldwinville Elementary. If you drive by and think that that is a modern facility, then you're living in the past. We needed that school, and you voted and you passed it. What was unknowable at the time, and I'll paraphrase from many different meetings, what was unknowable at the time was what it was going to cost to open that school. Again, Chris offered, this is the structure that we have between Phillipston and Templeton. With this structure, these are the numbers that we have. So we've addressed this at town meeting in two different ways, the override and the school budget. The school budget has been talked to death. The number is what it is. It's $988. The override side of it, last Saturday I spoke at the town forum and I offered that we do need this school. We do not need to open this school under a cloud of uncertainty. We need to open it being proud of it, not in the face of layoffs or whether the questionable spending of money. That's not what it's about. We're going forward straight, and we're going to open the school like a proud community should. You can't stick your head in the sand on this one. Some overrides garner a lot of discussion. This one most certainly is, as we've seen tonight. But on the override question, there's going to be the question of, can we handle it? Last Saturday I talked about there are sectors in the community, this fixed income community, that are going to look at this and say, we can't handle this. We can't afford to have another override. We can't be known as the override community. I don't think that's the case. In the fixed income community, you need to take a look at other items like the senior circuit breaker tax break. There are ways to be able to look at specifically property tax and revenues that the towns depend on to be able to look at the 65 and older community, the fixed income community, to look at what kind of break can you get. The state gets it. The state understands that the towns are getting choked off. Part of the reason why we have a 988 is because the state can't fully fund the transportation bill. The transportation bill is huge on our community. The state keeps saying that they're going to give more. Right now, we're well under 50% funded for transportation. That's why the school has a tough time squeezing this balloon to make sure that we don't have cost overruns. I want to make sure I'm staying on task. You can't stick your head in the sand and say that you're not going to grow as a community. You can't put these kids in old communities, in old buildings, and expect that it's going to work. You need to basically say, as a community, we need new infrastructure. We need solid ground to be able to pay for these things. We're getting there. How many of you in the audience know that we have a bond rating now, an A1 bond rating? This allows us to borrow money at much reduced cost. We are getting better. It's not getting worse. Don't stick your head in the sand. Look at this for what it is. It's an override to support your community and your infrastructure. Thank you.
I apologize. Further discussion. She was before you. Yep. Wait. Were you waiting?
I was going to let him go first because I'm nice.
You were next. Go ahead.
I'm Beverly Bartolomeo. I live at 686 South Road. I've lived here forever. I was hoping to die here too. You know, we have two classes of people in this town. We have the working people. They worked at Temple Stewart. They worked at the paper mill. They worked on their farms. It's true. They never had no 401k. They are living day to day, trying to get through. There's a difference between, when you have no money, it's not what you want. Everybody wants everything. It's what you can afford. The school, there's going to be problems down the road, problems that were ignored by the Conservation Commission. We have roads that you cannot drive on. So if we have a $22 tax rate now, And we have to do all that. There is no damn plan on where that money's coming from, except out of your pocket. There are people that wanted the school so bad. Where the hell are they? They moved out of town. Go look at all the houses that are for sale. People move into town because they can afford the payment. When they can't afford the payment no more, Victoria Lane is a revolving door. I don't want to leave. I want to stay here. I got a good education in a crummy little school with very, very good teachers. You know, you have to live within your means the same way we do. You guys, you have better jobs than I ever dreamt of having. You make more money, but you're the advisory board. You work for everybody. And don't you ever forget that.
Further discussion, Article 6.
Yeah, hi, Robert May, 137 Shady Lane. I've heard a lot of information, and as some of you know, I watch meetings, I attend meetings, I comment on meetings. The numbers in this town are pretty familiar to me. In the discussion, Dr. Casavant stated, I believe it was 19 people. Now, just as an example, I've heard the 19, I've read the 19, but then I've heard it's actually 15, that the four aren't actually present employees, that they're future employees, that there's 15 of them would be present employees. It just all kinds of things. That's all in the decision-making process from your standpoint, where you just choose to cut the money. I just choose to cut the money. So on that idea, I present a substitute motion for Article 6. I move to raise and appropriate the sum of $6,491,070.00, or a lesser amount, to fund the assessed share of the cost of the Narragansett Regional School District fiscal 20.
We're going to get some clarification. I'm going to allow to speak on basically any other motion. Article 6.
Thank you. Tom Harrington, Town Council. So you are allowed to change the amount in this motion. It is a valid motion. I believe I'm duty-bound to tell you, if you approve this motion and then approve the amount, it functions as a no vote. The district tells us the amount they're asking for, and we vote that up or down. So if we change the amount and vote it up, to them it's a no vote, and they'll go through their no vote procedure.
Maybe Hank? What if?
Okay. So that was a little bit of clarification for you. Obviously, we're entertaining questions. This is now discussion on this substitute motion that was presented in writing with a second. This is discussion on the substitute motion only. Go ahead.
Well, perhaps then this isn't relevant, but because I had also written out a motion, but I was wondering about a debt exclusion. I like Paul Quattrociocchi's suggestion. I realized No, go
Can you tell
away.
me who you are and your name?
Oh,
or your
my
address?
name is Kate Fulton. I live at 79 Bridge Street.
Mr. Moderator, I can answer that question.
Okay.
You cannot use a debt exclusion for an operating budget.
And I am Diane Haley Brooks again.
Okay.
Thank you.
I apologize.
Okay.
Does that
thank
answer your
you.
question?
Yes, could I also
Do you have a
ask...
follow?
I have one more follow-up, which...
Sure, go ahead.
I would like the advisory board to be polled on this question. Reading they recommend it, but it is not unanimous. I would like the advisory board polled, please.
Okay. Poll for the substitute motion? Well, they already gave their decision on the original motion. No. If you wanted that individual vote, then you should have been at that meeting. Okay. This is on the substitute motion that we have in writing. Go ahead, sir.
Mr. Moderator, Dennis O'Brien, 259 Bolivarville. I'll make a motion not to amend this article.
So we can't entertain that motion on not taking the motion because we already have that substitute motion in place. So that's out of order. Further discussion on the substitute motion.
Diane Haley Brooks, 83 Shady Lane. So I remember when I'm on the floor. So I would like to know what happens with the ballot question for the override if this budget gets voted down.
Yeah, you have to. So, okay. Technically, that's. I'm going to let him answer the question because it's technically a two-part issue.
So the ballot question component is no longer valid because it's the language is not contained in this motion. So again, this motion is no different than a no vote on the district budget. It functions strictly as a no vote on the district budget.
Go ahead, sir. On this substitute motion, that's what we're discussing right now.
I know the town council just said this. Oh, John Thomas Crossroads, sorry. I know town council said this, but it is very complicated. And if I understand it correctly, if we accept a number other than the one up on that screen, it means absolutely nothing, and the budget goes back to the school committee for them to recertify the same amount, a higher amount, or a lower amount. It does not mean that the school budget will be $6 million. The substitute motion, whether we vote it yes or whether we vote it no, means nothing. All it means is send it back to the school committee and let's start this process that could entail some really ugliness down the road. We have to accept the school committee certified budget, we have to accept the override, and we have to move the town forward.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Moderator?
Yep, further discussion. Okay, thank you. Yes, go ahead. Mhm.
Yep. So Doug Morrison, Gray Road. In addition to what this gentleman just said, not only does it start that ugly process and will repeat itself, it costs us more money because we'll have to have additional ballot questions. And, so it's a mistake, in my opinion, to do this.
Further discussion on the substitute motion.
Mr. Moderator, Mike Dixon, 465 Patriots Road, Templeton Center. I'd like to ask Dr. Cassavan if he could speak to what would happen. I hear a lot of speculation about layoffs and closures and things. I know no facts about it. I wonder if Dr. Cassavan could speak to what would happen if this does not get passed.
I'm definitely going to let you speak. I think the clarity's already been made on the substitute motion. So if Dr. Cassavant would like to discuss, that's what we're having, a discussion on the substitute motion with regards to your question, that's fine. But what I want you to understand is this substitute motion is what we're discussing, and it's not necessarily what would happen on the original motion, Article 6.
My understanding from town council is voting in favor of that change would be equal to voting no on the first question.
That's what we're understanding. The last gentleman actually did another explanation of that.
So the
Dr.
question
Cassavant, the
remains.
microphone is yours, but again, we're keeping to this substitute motion.
Okay, so Chris Cassavant, Superintendent of Schools. If there's a no if there's a no vote on the budget, the school budget, then you're absolutely correct. The school committee will go back and recertify a number, the same, lower, or otherwise. If, in fact, that carries out, I believe this district has already done this once through a succession of meetings, but it also culminates into a joint town meeting in which this issue would then come up again, whether or not the school budget would be voted in or out. If it's no, then we go to what they call a 1/12 budget process, in which the state then comes in and takes over financial oversight of the district.
Okay, thank you. Trying to get some clarification. Further discussion on the substitute motion. That's what's on the floor right now.
Gail Noel, Winchester Street. The previous question on what would be eliminated, or what would be the impact of not passing this vote on the rest of the town or the school?
Well, the impact on this substitute motion, if it's a no, it's going to go back to the original Article 6 that we were originally discussing. That's what's going to happen.
Right, and if this is not passed and it's a no vote, what happens, what's the impact to the town? The other departments in the town?
Dr. Cassavant, again, I'd refer it to you. However, this is substitute motion, and that's what we're discussing right now. I can't say what could happen if this one...
if I'm sure you'll stop me if this is incorrect, Chris Cassavant, Superintendent of Schools. If we're talking about what happens to the configuration of the school, what does schools look like if the budget right now is voted no? Everything that was just said would happen. School committee would reconvene. A decision would have to be made at that point in time. This has been said in public forum, but what a decision would have to make is we would wait. Do we wait until the joint meeting to make whatever, to see if it actually passes? Do we wait until the state comes in and makes their decision on December 1st in terms of just assigning whatever the tax rate may be? From the school's perspective, from my perspective, I would combine the elementary schools immediately, because I cannot, in good conscience, have X amount of staff not know if they're going to have a job July 12th or December 1st, quite frankly. It's unfair to them, and that would be, again, I have 8 bosses. But if you're asking me, that's a very real consideration, because we would have to prepare for the state ultimately, when they come in under the 1/12, given what we've just talked about. If the budget does not pass, we would have to be prepared for the state to say that it's either lower or higher. And December 1, we could very well be moving kids back and forth. And that has been an open conversation since last February.
Okay, further discussion on the substitute motion. Yes, go ahead.
Actually, I think you may have answered my question. I'm sorry. I'm Lori Matson, 73 Laurelview Drive, and I'm also a school committee member. You may have answered my question, but now I kind of forgot how you answered it. How do we get back to the original Article 6 to vote on Article 6?
We need to vote on the substitute motion first, and that'll depend on what happens with
if
the
we-
original motion.
So if we vote no on the substitute motion, it goes back to the original Article 6?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
And if you vote yes for it, I have to be fair, if you vote yes for it, then this gets implemented in place of that, which according to our legal counsel, it is not valid. It is basically a no according to the school budget amount.
Correct. So basically, if you do vote yes for the substitute motion, as one of the selectmen said, you'll also be spending more money because we'll be having another special town meeting. Just throwing that out there.
Yes, I try to give you some clarification, but I'm certainly not in a position to say yes or no. I'm not here to sway your vote one way or another. Try to explain it to you. Go ahead, sir. On the substitute motion, that's what we're discussing.
Yeah, I have a question I'll direct at the superintendent who could possibly answer. If this reaches an impasse, a Mexican standoff, if you will, and it goes back to gets voted down, it goes back to the school committee, and it goes to a 1/12 budget, and the state gets involved, what would be your opinion? Somebody else mentioned that the town has consistently contributed over the minimum amount to the school department each year. What would be the state's response to that in terms of forcing the town to either match that budget or not, considering the fact that we've already contributed more than a maximum requirement? Thank you.
Yes, you're fine. If you could just...
Superintendent of Schools, Chris Cassavant. To answer the question directly, the state's response has been so far that they will, after reviewing everything, they will make their decision. They have been very quiet about the process. All the process is right on the website. But they won't tell you exactly what they'll take into consideration. Not beforehand. They won't do that. The other part of that was over the required net school spending number. Yes, Templeton and Phillipston, this district has always given more than required net school spending. That should not be ever questioned. It is not 72% over the required net school spending number. The average in the state is 23% currently over required net school spending. And I don't know if I've answered the last question. There was 3 parts to that. I'm not sure. Is that good? I don't know.
Thank you. Further discussion?
Mr. Moderator? Mr. Moderator, could I just clarify something that was in, that Chris may have forgotten to answer? He did answer one thing. Over the minimum target share, we were paying a penalty for 9 years. We were paying a penalty. I just wanted to clarify that for the public.
Okay, thank you, Diane. Further discussion? It's over there.
Terry Langlois, 21 Grandview Terrace. So what you're saying is if we don't agree on this right now, then the substitute motion, that before you open the school, you'll close Phillipston?
Okay, the discussion is on the substitute motion, not what could happen if this other one doesn't pass. We're discussing the amount that is changed on the substitute motion.
Okay.
So we're entertaining discussion on that.
Okay, so this would be for next year.
Mike, I believe you were next. Go ahead. Yep, further discussion. I'll get to you, sir.
Okay, on the substitute motion, we're talking about 6.4, is that the number?
It is...
Mike Curry, Hubbardston Road.
Thank you. It is $6,491,070, no cents.
My comment is to vote no, and let's go back to the original number, and I'll tell you why. Let's give the school what they need. We need the override. Let me talk again about fixed income, the Massachusetts Senior Circuit Breaker tax. If you don't know about it, I'm telling you right now, the override does take money out of your pocket. We've belabored that. Let me tell you how to put money back in your pocket. Look into that. Go into the DOR website, look up the Senior Circuit Breaker. Hey, I've got the floor.
Okay.
I'm going to wait until I have the floor.
Listen, he does have the microphone. Please give me the attention it's due. Mike, I will tell you this.
Yes.
It's not about senior citizens, okay? This is about the substitute motion.
I understand, but the argument has been made that people can't afford it.
Okay. Make your point,
So
that's fine.
there's a dotted line there, but I'm telling you right now, last Saturday I talked about it. There are people in the community who have said that they can't afford it. I'm telling you now, we're trying to figure out ways. We're making options on how you can do that. We have to go forward. We have to have some progress and growth. Don't stick your head in the sand. Say no to 6.4 and say yes to 7.4.
Thank you. Further discussion, sir.
Mr. Moderator, Bernard Heaney, 716 Ballinville Road, Ballinville. I realize this is discussion about the substitute motion, but may I speak to the superintendent's comment about the 72%?
The 72%.
Yes, he said our contributions are certainly not 72% over. That's an incorrect statement. I'll make it very short, all right?
You're trying to correct his 72%?
Yes.
Okay.
The DESE calculates how much we must contribute to the school system. It's done in two forms, a minimum and a suggested target. I commented that for 11 years we've been over both of those numbers. We're over the target. That's what I believe the superintendent was speaking to. The 72% was another figure that DESE calculates, and that's the foundation budget for the school system to spend. See, there's two things here. There's what we should contribute to the school, and the second thing is what the school should spend for their school system. And it's called a foundation budget. 2 years ago, the school system, with all the income that they get, contributed 72% over what the state says you have to spend, and that's it.
Thank you. Further discussion.
Morgan Jelenuski, South Row, Templeton. I request that we move the question.
Okay. There's been a request to move the question. Do we have a second? Okay. I want you to understand that we're moving the substitute motion. Okay? All in favor of moving the question signify by saying yes. Yes. Opposed? No. Okay, that passed at 8:37 p.m. Okay. The substitute motion that we're going to be voting on. If I can have your attention, please. We get complaints all the time that people can't hear and things like that. Please. Substitute motion that we are going to be voting on is I move to raise and appropriate the sum of $6,491,070.00 or some lesser amount to fund the town's assessed share of the cost of the Narragansett Regional School District for FY20. All in favor of this substitute motion signify by saying yes. Yes. Opposed? No. That did not pass at 8:38 p.m. We are back to Article 6, further discussion.
Mr. Moderator.
Where are we at? Yes, sir.
There was a question from somebody in the audience.
Will.
Wilfred Spring Advisory. There was a question in the audience about polling the advisory. Rather than poll the advisory, let me speak to it because I was the dissenting vote. The actual amount that the school is above last year is $1,141,000 and change. In the town's budget, the town has voted to take an increase from the $6.4 million by $158,000 and change. Thereby, you have a difference of $988,000. We saw a number of budgets early on before the final one came out. One of the questions I asked the town administrator was, did you relay the fact that you wanted either level funding or 2.5% increase? His response at the pre-town meeting was yes. At that particular point, back in April when we had 4 budgets, I had mentioned this about it should have been interesting for us to have the selectmen and the 2 school committee have further discussions as to the amount. I'm not opposed to taking end up having an override, but I think it's excessive. Excessive, why? Because 30% of this community is senior citizens on fixed income, which I'm one of them. With that, as far as the amount, I ended up suggesting that the town ended up cutting somewhere in the vicinity of probably $100,000 to $200,000, and likewise the school do the same. So the impact to the community would be less. That's why I voted it as a no, because I felt that the $1.50 increase for tax rate was more than some of our seniors could end up handling. They may be able to handle a lesser amount. That 1.5 is only part of it, folks. We have a bond that was also passed of a little over $12 million, and that's going to increase the tax rate by $1.15. It's in the budget. So you put those 2 together, you're talking about $2.85 increase this year. Another gentleman had brought up the fact of another $10 to $14 million for the rest of the school. That represents another $1.25 to $1.50, depending on the interest rate and how much money. So the total impact looking forward here is going to be around $21 by next year. That does not include if the school wants more money next year. So I'm looking at the fact that we had a chance for our selectmen and our school committee to have further discussions. You'll end up having somebody say, well, how come the people of this community didn't come to the school budget hearings? That's true. We own some of that. But we elected both officials in both the school committee and the selectmen. They should have been looking at this as the impact to us overall for all the citizens. Unfortunately, we now are in a position where we're versing the elderly against the young. I don't like that. I think that's wrong. I think we need to take and end up tuning this back as far as the amount of the override and make sure we open that school. We've committed to open that school. I wasn't for the school where it is, but we have a school. We have to open it. Within both budgets, there's opportunities for cuts. I believe the school is negotiating with the teachers union for a fairly good-sized increase.
Mr. Spring. Mr. Spring. Mr. Spring.
It's part of the budget, sir.
Okay. Their increase for teachers has nothing to do with Article 6.
Well, it is part of the budget. You're going to see an increase in the budget on both the town side and the school side. So those are the effects. I look forward to end up trying to get this lowered for the senior citizens. That's why I voted no for this amount of money. I saw an opportunity for our elected officials to end up talking about this a little bit more and lowering it so that it would be a lesser impact to the entire community.
Thank you. Tony, there was one gentleman before you.
He left.
Is he? Okay. Go ahead, further discussion.
All right, Tony DeJoy, 8 Minute Man Drive. I must speak in deference to my esteemed colleague, Mr. Spring. Will is very passionate about everything, and we applaud him for that. We as a committee spent hours going over the budget. Dr. Cassavant came in a couple of times to discuss it with us. He went over the budget very thoroughly. We looked at the town budget. You can watch our meetings online. We looked at possibly taking a 5 or 8% cut across the board. We realized that that was not going to happen. You know, we were told, I mean, someone made a comment that we work for the town, which we do. We're the watchdog, if you will, for the town. We're all volunteers on this committee. We're appointed by the moderator. So we have a vested interest in the town, and to tell the people of the town, the majority of the town, regardless of our personal beliefs, what we feel is best for the town. We did discuss what the impact this would be to the older citizens of Templeton. We know it's an impact to them. But you have to spend money to keep a vibrant town going. And if we don't do this, Templeton's going to be where it was 8, 10, 12 years ago. We've come such a long way. I've been in town for 18 and a half years, and to see the growth in the town is encouraging, but it still needs to grow more. So, like I said, while Will is very passionate, you saw the vote was 5-1. We had one member that wasn't there. So he was looking out for the seniors, so you have a person on the board looking out for that. We did look at the budgets. We just couldn't find a way, and we believe as a committee that this is the right thing for the town, and that's what our charge is.
Tony, thank you for clarifying that. As stated in the rules, you could be asked if you are representing yourself as a citizen or if you are speaking on behalf of the board that you're on. No, I'm just saying thank you for clarifying that. Further discussion?
Dana Blaze, 20 Turner Street. My family's been in this town since 1954. I graduated, went to school in Templeton. And this crisis that some people say we're in right now, with our tax rate going to $19, $20 a thousand, it didn't start tonight. It started probably from some of the senior citizens who never wanted to ever have an override. Okay, then where did that get us? Oh, come to Templeton. We got low tax rates. What did that get us? Bad roads, bad school buildings that were inadequate, highway equipment, buildings. Oh, come to Templeton. We got a low tax rate. Well, it's starting to kick up on us right now. We have no choice but to fund it. We definitely need a new school. I was on that committee for over 20 years. And I'm probably like 90% of the rest of the town. I don't like the location, but it's there and we're going to use it. Okay? But as far as people saying that we're 70% over what the state says we need, well, apparently that's what we needed. Because even at 72%, like someone said, and the state average is 23%, the school, even if we went over 23%, 72%, these schools aren't that elaborate. I mean, these teachers aren't getting paid what they should be getting. Because I know, I married a teacher. Okay?
Okay.
And another thing too is that it's time that we fund this, we voted for it, we get move on. Even though we still have to have an override vote, we got to start tonight. And I'm definitely for Article 6.
Thank you. Further discussion?
John Worden, Baldenville Road. Can we move the question?
Okay. We have a second as well? Okay. We are moving the question, Article 6. All in favor of moving the question signify by saying yes. Yes. Opposed? No. Okay, that passed to move the question at 8:48 p.m. Okay, we're voting on Article 6. All in favor of Article 6 signify by saying yes. Yes. Opposed? No. That passed at 8:49 p.m.
Mr. Moderator, point of order.
Yes, go ahead.
I'd like to remind everybody that this question can be brought back up for up to 30 minutes during town meetings. So if you were thinking of leaving, how many is it? Well, I'm sorry, 1 hour. Thank you for correcting me. So if you're thinking of leaving, I would request those that want this to stay.
Thank you. Article 7, please, again, respect for everybody, okay, so they can hear, all right? Article 7.
Mr. Moderator, Doug Morrison, Article 7. I move to waive the reading and approve the article as published, accepting the phrase, "to see if the town will vote to," and the phrase, "or take any other action relative thereto," provided, however, that the reference to the words section LVX in line 1 shall read Article LVII, and the reference to the title, the reference in the title to LVX shall read LVII.
Thank you. Do we have a second on Article 7?
Diane Haley Brooks, I second that motion.
Advisory Committee.
Mr. Moderator, the Advisory Committee recommends favorable action on this article.
Further discussion, Article 7.
Mr. Moderator, Julie Farrell, 24 Myrtle Street. I had a question and I'd like some clarification on section 1.1.1, work requiring permits. It's right at the bottom, it's the first section. It states, any excavator who intends to break any street or sidewalk surface or excavate any road or shoulder shall contact the Templeton Highway Department. By any, does this include the sewer, the light, and the water departments?
If somebody could answer her question. It does include it? You just want me to say yes?
Yes.
Yes, it does include it, yes. Further discussion, Article 7. Further discussion, Article 7? All in favor of Article 7 signify by saying yes. Yes. Opposed? That's unanimous at 8:51 p.m.
Mr. Moderator, point of order.
Go ahead.
Rick Moulton, 15 Mountain View Street. I'd like to revisit Article 6.
Okay, it's not a point of order, but okay, we'll entertain that. So you want reconsideration?
I'd like to bring that up
You'd like to bring up
within the hour for a revote.
Article 6, and you want it, we have a second on it?
Yes, you do.
Okay, actually, 1 second, can I have that back? Okay, there has been a motion, it has been seconded. Reconsideration is what we are now open for discussion. If there's any discussion on it. No further discussion on the reconsideration? All in favor? Let me clarify. I know there's been some confusion in the past. Reconsideration is done within 1 hour. If you bring it back up and the vote is yes to reconsider this article, Article 6, means that we can open it back up and talk more about it, make changes, whatever. If the vote is no, that means we cannot bring it back up. There's no further discussion on it. Just so there's a little bit of clarification. You have some discussion on the reconsideration?
Yeah, I don't think, Greg Griffiths, Toadbury Lane, Templeton, Mass, again. I don't feel it was definitively a yes, and moreover, I am very much against it because I feel like we here in Templeton are overtaxed right now, and really, I would like to see you folks show us how to get those tax rates down instead of up. I look at other communities that do a hell of a lot better job,
So what you
and provide better services.
Okay. What he's basically saying is the reconsideration that you're discussing, okay, is not the article itself. You want to bring up why you want to vote yes or no for it. That's all basically the point of order. So just try to keep your discussion to the reconsideration part of it.
I would like it reconsidered.
Okay.
I feel like we're
That's-
paying too much.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Further discussion? No? Okay. Further discussion? Okay. Reconsideration. All in favor of reconsideration on Article 6 signify by saying yes. Yes. Opposed? No. That did not pass at 8:54 p.m. Okay. I am stepping down for Article 8. Again, please, a little consideration for everybody else, okay? Keep the noise down to a minimum.
He doesn't have to. Mr. Moderator? Madam Moderator? I move to take Article 8 out of order and upon the conclusion of vote upon Article 15.
John Capels, I second.
Okay. Okay, do we have any discussion on that? Any discussion?
Could we please have an explanation why this is being moved out of order?
We have an explanation? Sure, go ahead.
Carter Terenzini, Town Administrator. Article 8, the language relates to penalties for an open container of alcohol, an open container of marijuana, and a jake brake or engine brake. Those are independent warrant articles 9, 10, and 11. There are also some other actions in the codification. Town Council and I discussed that it would be best to get all of the underlying articles voted upon, and then should any of them have failed, we can amend Article 8 in a manner consistent with all of those votes as opposed to having to reconsider Article 8 and go back in and try to do a cleanup. So we simply missed this when we put the order of the warrant together.
Is there any other further discussion? All those in favor of moving Article 8 out of order, please signify by saying yes. Yes. All those opposed? Passes unanimously at 8:57.
Madam Moderator, Doug Morrison, Article 9.
Okay.
I move to amend Article 25 of the bylaws to add Section 2 to read as follows. No person shall upon any way or in any place to which the public has a right of access, or upon any way or in any place to which members of the public have access as invitees or licensees possess an open container of alcohol in the passenger area of any motor vehicle. A person who violates this section shall be punished by a civil penalty of not more than $300 for purposes of this section. Open container shall mean that the package containing alcohol has its seal broken or from which the contents have been partially consumed or fully consumed. And passenger area shall mean the area designated to seats the driver and passengers while the motor vehicle is in operation, and any area that is readily accessible to the driver or passenger while in a seated position, provided, however, that the passenger area shall not include a motor vehicle's trunk, locked glove compartment, or any living quarters of a house coach or house trailer, or if the motor vehicle is not equipped with a trunk, the area behind the last upright seat or an area not normally occupied by the driver or passenger.
Do I hear a second?
John Capels, I second that.
Advisory Committee?
Ms. Moderator, the Advisory Committee recommend against this article.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussions? Yes.
Yes, Steve Drury, 18 Drury Lane, Cosmic Muffin. Let's see, okay, $300. We have a prior bylaw that is in play already that is $50. I feel the $300 was interesting, so I went to the clerk and asked her how many citations were given out over the $50 period, since the 300 is not happening at this point. And then the answer was none. So I would suggest that the $50 one is just as good as the $300 one, and increasing the fee of $300 is basically, holding us ransom. Now I'm going to tell you what happens with a law like this. Since I pick up trash on the side of the road, people go and they buy nips. I find them everywhere, man. They are everywhere. And they buy a bottle and they throw them out as fast as you can drink them. This law is ridiculous, okay? And the bottom line is drinking and driving I'm totally against. I agree with the police, but having an open container of alcohol, it's happening. And what's happening with it is they're not getting caught because they're throwing the bottles outside the window. It's as fast as they can drink them. So, you can put this in play, but I think it's also going to cost police to enter your vehicle, and maybe lawsuits are going to happen. So I'm against this.
Further discussion?
Tom Jelenuski, South Main Street. I'm wondering why we even bother with this. Don't we have state laws that prohibit the same action? Maybe the police chief can comment on that. I don't know why this needs to be a town bylaw. It seems redundant to me. And I don't drink and drive.
He does too. No comment on that one. So, Chief Bennett, I am a resident, 161 State Road in Baldwinville. Yes, there is a state law, okay? And the state law is under Chapter 90. It's a $500 fine. It's been in effect since approximately 1998, when Congress passed a program to have all states in the United States adopt open container laws. To this day, there are only 11 states that do not have open container laws. Basically, what this bylaw does is it puts another tool on the tool belt of an officer. So instead of going out, which we write many open container violations under Chapter 90, and giving a resident a $500 Chapter 90 state violation, it is now a town bylaw violation. It does not go to court. It goes to the town clerk, who would hear an appeal. Your $300 goes to the town. It does not go to the state. It is not a new law. It has been in effect for over 20 years. This actually reduces the fine amount. And it's up to $300, not a $300 maximum. So let me give you an example where this law or this bylaw could be used. You have a junior operator who is at Gilman Waite, who has no record, who has an open container, and an officer encounters that individual. Now that officer has two options instead of one. Instead of giving the $500 Chapter 90 violation, state violation, he can turn around and give a more appropriate violation if he chooses under his discretion of up to $300, which is just a town bylaw. So it makes a little bit of sense.
Thank you, Chief. Go ahead.
Hey, Tony Joy, 8 Minuteman Drive. Chief, I'm not saying you didn't say it clearly. If it's enforced under Chapter 90, the state gets all the money. Simple as that. So every ticket they write, and have written forever since the law was enacted, that $200, $300, $400, $500 goes to the state. This makes it a civil offense, and all that money goes to the town. So they're writing the tickets, except the state's getting that money. And in this case, they could use discretion and say, okay, you know what, it's a $50 fine, whatever they decide, but we get that money.
Go ahead.
Tom Jelinuski, South Main Street. Alcohol in a vehicle is a serious, serious offense. Too many people die from drunk driving accidents. I don't think there should be any discretion. If you're caught with alcohol, open container, in a vehicle, you ought to be prosecuted. It doesn't need to be a money-generating issue for the town. I think I would vote this article down. Thank you.
Hi, Robert May, 137 Shady Lane. First off, I'll say I don't like the drinking and drive, the open container law, and not because I drink and drive, because I don't drink. And I don't drink and drive, and I don't believe in it. But the only issue that I have with this law is it seems to generate trash. So I appreciate what the chief said, and I do agree that this is better as a bylaw than a state law. I just wish we could find some way to take the town money that this will generate and utilize it to pick up some of the trash that it generates, rather than just going into a kitty. Thank you.
Dana Blaze, 20 Turner Street. I'm kind of confused here. There is a state law that, so now the town's going to write a ticket for somebody in Gilman Waite. Don't you have to notify the state that you've caught someone with an open container, so you're going to get, the town's going to get 300 and the state's going to get 500?
Chief, can you answer that?
What I'm saying is, how do you discriminate between, oh, the state says, oh, you guys can keep the money this time, we'll take it next time?
So it is not double jeopardy. The officer can only write it one of two ways, state or bylaw. It's up to his discretion, his or her discretion, how he's going to write that. I'll just stay here for a minute.
Go ahead.
Thanks. Lee Guthrie, 6 Musket Drive, Templeton. First of all, I want to preface this by stating that I fully support the police chief and the officers of the town, and also I'm against drunk driving. I would like to move to amend
the article, however, so I'd like to make a motion to amend the article. I can read the entire thing, but essentially it is to strike the phrase "or fully consumed" from this. The reason being twofold. Massachusetts general law under Chapter 90 defines a open container as a bottle, can, or other receptacle used to contain a liquid that has been opened or has a broken seal, or the contents of which have been partially removed or consumed. So it does not include the phrase "fully consumed." So I personally believe that by striking out that phrase, we will better as a town align with Mass General Law. And secondly, and I don't want anyone to think that I'm implying that the officers of this town would do anything untoward, but in my personal opinion, the strict interpretation of this article could make bringing empties to the store a finable violation, because by definition, they have been fully consumed. I do not believe that is the intent of what this defines, but by removing that phrase, we will completely avoid that ever being a possibility.
Do you have that in writing?
I do.
Okay, so do we have any discussion on the substitute motion? All right, all those in favor of the substitute motion signify by saying yes. Yes. All those opposed? No. And that passes at 9-11. What? Article 10.
Madam Moderator, John Caplis. Article 10. I move to amend. Standing by.
Oh, sorry, that was just to amend. Now we need to take a vote on the amended motion. All those in favor of the amended motion, please signify by saying yes. Yes. All those opposed? Passed unanimously at 9-12. Article 10.
Madam Moderator, John Caplis, Article 10. I move to amend Article 21 to its general bylaws to add Section 6 to read as follows. Possession of marijuana in a motor vehicle. No person shall, upon any way or any place to which the public has right of access, or upon any way in any place to which members of the public have access as invitees or licenses, possess an open container of marijuana or marijuana products in the passenger area of any motor vehicle. A person who violates this section shall be punished by civil penalty of not more than $500. For purposes of this section, open container shall mean the package containing marijuana or marijuana product has its seal been broken or from which the containers have been partially removed, consumed, and passenger area shall mean the area designated to seat the driver and passenger while the motor vehicle is in operation, and any area that is readily accessible to the driver or passenger while in a seated position, provided, however, that the passenger area shall not include a motor vehicle's trunk, locked glove compartment, or living quarters of a house, coach, or house trailer, or if a motor vehicle is not equipped with a trunk, the area behind the last upright seat, or any area not normally occupied by the driver and/or passenger.
Diane Haley Brooks, I second that motion.
Thank you. Advisory Committee?
And moderator, the advisory committee recommends against this article.
Thank you. Any discussion on this article?
Steve Drury, 18 Drury Lane, Templeton, Mass. Okay, this article has a lot of problems with the wording because it's legal to have an ounce of marijuana in your vehicle. Now, when you go and buy marijuana, Mr. Monitor, they put it in a locked container in a zipper bag. However, it's also legal to grow marijuana. You can grow up to 6 to 12 plants at anyone's house. And again, you can put the marijuana in a container. And if as long as it's under an ounce, you could put it inside your trunk. If you happen to be a medical marijuana patient, you can have almost, well, whatever the doctor says, a pound or 10 ounces is what they like to say, but that's not true. So the bottom line is, a $500 fine too, by the way, if this is a non-criminal, that's too much money. That's too much money under the law. It can only be $300. And the other issue is an open container. Well, what is an open container? An open baggie, open container, let's see, a jar. I'm asking myself, how's the police, first of all, going to get to the trunk or the glove compartment? At which point, if he does, how is he going to determine what was an open container? Because I could put a half an ounce, I could put a gram, I could put a seed, I could put anything I wanted in there. Of course, I'm not going to discuss anything with the police because everything you do or say to a cop is used against you. So I'm not going to say nothing. I'm not even going to roll down my window because it might smell like weed. So the bottom line is no. You know, this is just, we just made marijuana legal, and now they're making it illegal on the assumption that it's going to be in your vehicle and there's some sort of problem about driving. And I think that's very valid reason to discuss what the appellate court said, that the marijuana, the smell of marijuana, the burnt smell of marijuana is not probable cause. So technically, they can't even ask you whether you got pot in your car, because, they don't even know what amount it would be. You'd be stupid to say anything. So, this is just plagiarizing another law, which is Geminizing the whole thing. I mean, how many times do we have to match to a law? The state was defined in legalizing marijuana. I understand they have a $500 issue as well. And under this circumstance, changing this and putting it into a bylaw, let's just look at the people that come through Templeton. They're not going to know the bylaw. Are we going to put signs up that say, oh, by the way, it's $500 fine if you have your pot someplace else than these two places? And, it's a cumbersome law. It's not worded very correctly. An open container can be anything. And I ain't kidding you, anything. A Tupperware, anything. And they're gonna say, well, you know, it ain't quite an ounce. It ain't quite a gram. Well, they're gonna have to establish, there's gonna be all kinds of problems with us. This is not something that we wanna do. And marijuana is not, you know, radioactive, you know? I mean, we don't need to, you should be able to carry it. And obviously, if the appellate court has said that the smell of marijuana is not probable cause, I want you to know you can smell marijuana, fresh marijuana. So, you know, what's gonna happen with this? I vote no.
Madam Moderator, Madam Moderator. Madam
Yes.
Moderator, can I do a friendly amendment?
Sure.
That 500 was actually 300. Amendment from 500 to 300, based on
Okay.
town council.
Okay, so the amount has changed from 500 to 300. Go ahead.
Thank you, Robert May, 137 Shady Lane. Thank you, Mr. Kaplis. That was one of my issues. The other issue that I have with this is implementation. The CCC, in their statement that stated that Massachusetts towns should put some form of open container law on marijuana in play, stated they should, but they don't know how to implement it. And that, to me, is the problem. As I've spoken to the chief, hemp is legal. Hemp is anything under 3%. Massachusetts law says 2.5. At present, there is no means for the chief to pull me over and check what I have for the percentage of THC. That is the problem. It violates my rights. The only way that he can determine that it's marijuana and not hemp, and that therefore it is illegal and not legal, is by violating my rights, taking my property, and fining me until it is proven otherwise. I don't believe a law that is guilty until proven innocent is the way to go with a new product. I think this law is overreaching, and I think it's too early to implement this law as it's written, because I think it's a lawsuit waiting to happen, at least if I'm pulled over.
Okay, very good points by Mr. Drury and Mr. May. So let's back up. 2016, state decides to move forward with legalization of marijuana. One of the things the state was looking at is that legalization of marijuana was going to be enforced by mirroring the alcohol enforcement laws. Plain and simple fact, that's what they were mirroring. How are you going to enforce it? It's legal now. It needs to be enforced, okay? I'm not opposed to it, but it needs to be enforced. Open container. Open container just like alcohol. Yes, Mr. Drury, you can have an ounce or less on your person, not in your vehicle. You can walk down the street with it, not in your vehicle. You want to transport it in your car, you can transport it, plastic bag, Tupperware container, any kind of container you want. Lock it in your trunk. Otherwise, you need a locked container in the passenger compartment or in the way back out of the hands of reach of your driver's passenger compartment, or in a locked glove box. I don't think the law is too intrusive. If we're going to talk to getting involved with hemp, CBD, hemp, Mr. Drury says, looks identical to marijuana. It is not. It is two different plants. Very different. Yes, it is. Hemp grows taller. The leaves stay at the top of the plant. The bud is not as dense. It is, okay, because we go to training on it, and we know this is a fact. CBD products, okay? We're not going to pull you over because we suspect you might have it in your vehicle. There is going to be a reason why we pulled you over. What led up to that stop? How were you driving? That is how you're going to be stopped. Were you involved in a motor vehicle accident? That is how you're going to be stopped. That's when we will look to see if there's anything in the motor vehicle. It's not just going to be because we think he might have it in the car. So it's new. These are recommendations coming down from the CCC, from the governor's office, that this needs to be regulated. It needs to be enforced. Just like alcohol laws, this is just as bad.
All right, Mr. Monitor, Steve Drury, 18 Drury Lane. I study this all the time. I want to tell you straight out, all right, they have what they call hound labs that are moving into Boston as we speak. The police are hiring and being trained for expert witnesses as to being stoned. And the bottom line is that the test that they're using doesn't test impairment. Did you hear what I said? The test that they're going to use doesn't test impairment. All right? What they test for is THC, COOH. The one that gets you high is Delta 9 THC or THC 8. The bottom line is that there isn't a test other than a blood test that tests for THC and being under the influence, which you have a liberty and a right not to do.
Point of order. Point of order. We're not talking about that. We're talking about open container. We're not talking about legal test for impairment.
I think it's very important, Mrs. Monitor, respectfully, because the chief did speak on the issue about this law is to protect people from driving. All right, they don't want marijuana in the compartment because they fear that people might be smoking marijuana or using it in some way if it's in their vehicle. I say to you, this is ridiculous to ban this. This is prohibition again, all over again, and it's plummeting persecuting cannabis people that may get in the car. There's so many scenarios. I'm thumbing down the road. I happen to have marijuana on me. I get in the car. The guy doesn't know it. We get stopped. The next thing you know, he doesn't know how to handle himself in a police incident. And the officer asks, to get out of the car, and he finds pot with him. And the next thing you know, it's another $500 charge. And by the way, that $500 charge goes to the licensee. Or maybe it goes to the person who has the pot, because that law doesn't say where it goes. The bottom line is these laws are supposed to be specific, completely. All right? That's not specific. And it isn't specific to containers. This law should be trashed, the bottom line. And the idea of trying to collect money for something that's legal, respectfully, we don't have an issue about people smoking marijuana in cars in this state. In fact, again, that's what this law is about. And the Supreme Court, as well as the Appellate Court, I can go through 3 different cases if you'll allow me. But the bottom line is that, listen, you have to understand, those court judges are the ones who make the decisions, all right, in law. And they're saying that you can drive pretty well on marijuana, just despite what this man is saying.
Point of order.
So, the bottom line...
Point of order. Okay. I don't mind you speaking, but we're sitting here listening to you talk about driving impaired. That's not what this is about. This is about open container. So if you would please keep your argument to that, I'll be happy to listen to it. If not, I'm going to stand up here every time you go off.
Well, respectfully, all right, this encompasses many things. So the bottom line is that it's wrong to do this law or bylaw. It's a Gemini of a state law, and even if it's non-binding as a criminal offense, another patron, another citizen said, they're having trouble trying to enforce this.
Okay, we need
because
to,
of the wording of open
wind it
container,
up.
you know, locked and whatever. It's just, there's nothing concrete in there, and that needs to be taken out. And I'll fight it all the way to hell.
Tom Jolanowski, South Main Street. Make a motion to move the question.
All those in favor of moving the question signify by saying yes. Yes. All those opposed? Passed unanimously at 9:29. Article 10. All those in favor of Article 10 signify by saying yes. Yes. All those opposed? No. Passed at 9:29. Okay, Article 11.
Madam Moderator, I move to... Madam Moderator, I move to amend the general bylaws by inserting a new Article 58, engine braking, as follows. No operator of a diesel truck shall use engine braking, also known as exhaust braking or Jake braking, while operating a vehicle on a public way, where such use is prohibited by the issuance of a traffic order by the Board of Selectmen after the holding of a noticed public hearing in the town of Templeton, except in an emergency. Whoever violates this bylaw shall be punished by a fine of $100 for the first offense and $300 for the second and subsequent offenses. The owner of the vehicle may be cited in lieu of the operator.
John Kaplis, I second that.
Advisory Committee?
Madam Moderator, Advisory Committee recommends against this article.
Thank you. Do we have any discussion?
Mark Machete, 129 Partridgeville Road. A couple of things about this. One of them here says you can't use it except in an emergency. What is considered an emergency? If you read in your handout here, it says a summary. It's to assist the police department in enforcing unnecessary use of engine braking by diesel trucks in areas of town where this type of braking is not necessary. Where is the area they're saying it's not necessary? The vehicles, we'll say my vehicles, other people in town, we have stock exhaust, we meet federal safety standards and noise levels. The ones that they're having the problems with, I mean, I could list them off, but I'm not going to. They got altered exhaust, and it's illegal. So I believe, no disrespect, Chief, is that go after the guys who are making the noise. Nobody likes it. I mean, some of them are just totally disgusting, the noise. It'll rattle the windows. They got straight pipes on them. If you had a car that had no exhaust on it, straight pipes, you give them a ticket. Go after the trucks that are doing the exact same thing. Because this is a brake assist to have us slow down. And we get in an accident, they say, why don't you use it? Well, Templeton says you can't use it. And I want to know where these areas, that they're having the problems, and just go after the guys who have the altered exhaust. They got
Chief,
straight
would
pipes.
you like to respond to that?
Okay, so Mr. Machete is absolutely correct. The engine brake, or the Jake brake as it's commonly referred to, is a safety feature on diesel trucks. Essentially what they use it for is declines, steep declines, heavy loads. It's equivalent to downshifting, okay? I'm not opposed to the use of the Jake brake, all right? It keeps the life of the brakes longer, and it makes it safer in some aspects for the truck, okay? What we're looking at is that there are certain areas in town we've gotten quite a few complaints on, one being North Main Street. North Main Street at Depot, okay? You have maybe less than a 5% decline coming into Depot Road. You have a speed limit of 30 miles per hour. You have heavy truck traffic, okay? This is an area, after open meeting, at a Board of Selectmen meeting, discussion, that the Board of Selectmen vote this traffic rule in, that this area would be enforced. We have other areas in town, which I also get complaints about, Baldwinville Center, which is not feasible for this. You have 2 steep declines there with a stop sign coming into an intersection. It wouldn't be feasible. I understand the safety of the truck drivers, but I went through there today. I had 2 trucks coming through, never Jake braked. Nothing, quiet. Crickets. Then I had another truck coming through. I couldn't even hear my radio. And we have residents that live there on a daily basis that have to deal with this. I've already spoken to Graves, which is the major company there. They're not opposed to this. They understand and they feel for the neighbors. So that's the point we're trying to get at. It's not the entire town. And at this point, I can only say that in my eyes, it's one area in specific at this point in time.
Okay, Mark Machete again. Yeah, I'm not opposed to certain areas, but this is the biggest thing is that half dozen or so vehicles that go through town every day, continuously, back and forth to the paper mill, go here, go there. There are no exhaust systems on them. Just straight pipes right from the engine right up the top, and those are the ones that are just shaking the windows apart. And those are the ones that got to be, they got to be attacked. I mean, our vehicles you meet your safety standards, your noise standards, your federal standards of noise. They're put on by factory. It's nothing that's extra that were added on to make them sound, it's not like glass pack mufflers or side pipes in the cars back in the day. That is what it is. I mean, I just say no on this and do, some more policing of those guys, nail those guys that are altered exhaust. Give them they get inspection stickers. They pull their straight pipes off, they spend all day, put their mufflers back on, they go get a sticker, they go right back home, they rip everything back off again, put straight on. It's against the law to have those ones that are making that noise. And there's decibel readings, and if they're exceeding the decibel readings, I think you should nail them. And not, go after everybody else. I mean, why punish all of them for a few bad apples?
Thank you. Oh, didn't know you were waiting. Sorry, sir.
Oh, that's okay. George Andrews, Baldwinville Road, Templeton. I'm in that area where I live. There's about 75 to 80 trucks a day that go down to the auto place. And there's also the town sheds are there, and you got the schools further down the street. Now, are the people from the town also going to be told that they cannot use their Jake brakes because certain persons there do use their Jake brake? Well, the minute they come off Baptist Common Road to go down towards the town sheds, and when they have loads on, but there's no need from Baptist Common Road to Highway Barn to put the Jake brake on. Thank
you. Mike Dixon, Templeton Center, 465 Patriots Road. I do support this. I live in Templeton Center on an uphill grade, right across from the fire station. We have a lot of tractor-trailer traffic that goes through Templeton Center to a business a little bit further down the road. They use their Jake brakes on a regular basis on an uphill to slow down coming into the center. The noise at times is deafening, and there's little attention paid to what time of the night or morning it is when it's used. The way this is written, I think this means that if I wanted to make a case to that effect, I would have to go to a selectmen's meeting and tell them what was happening at my house, and they would do some investigation, maybe ask the police department to sit there for a while and see what's going on, and then if they agreed with my complaint, then they would put out that notice, traffic order. So I don't think this is a town-wide. I think it's meant to target specific problem areas. I would consider mine to be one of those problem areas, so I would support this.
Thank you.
Dana Blaze, 20 Turner Street. Well, I kind of follow Mr. Machete's, his feelings as far as, we're not all abusing our J brakes. I don't know if you know J brakes, you know, trucking's, people, you see these big trucks going by, everybody thinks you're making money. Well, these trucks probably make $80, $90 an hour. Brake jobs cost $500 a wheel. J brakes help prolong the time of doing brake jobs, but we're not all abusing it. There are a few people, and the police know it, a lot of people know it. There's certain trucks in town, like Mark said, that they got 8-inch exhaust. They even use a Jake brake to shift, not just for braking. Those are the people you have to go after. This is a law something that I believe we don't need. How do you designate, no doubt, Depot Road? I mean, we got one of the biggest mining operations in the state happening over there. These truckers pay a lot of money in highway use tax, but it doesn't justify the using of brakes. You consider they know who these truckers are that are abusing it. Those are the people you have to go after. Even with the new trucks, you can't even hear the Jake brake that goes on. So I'm totally against this.
Robert May, 137 Shady Lane. I have no comments related to the actual Jake brake or the trucking. My only comment is I believe we should remove the owner of the vehicle may be cited rather in lieu of the operator, because in my thinking, the person that is using the Jake brake is the person who should be fined because they're the one that's causing the problem. That way I think you actually go to the heart of the problem is the individual operator or the operator using it. If you find the company, they hire a new operator, another operator is just going to do the same thing. They might have a policy, but they're not out there monitoring their drivers on a daily basis. I don't know, just a thought.
Are you making an amended
And
motion?
I have a motion to that effect. Just basically, it's the same as that, just removes the bottom, last line.
Okay, do we have any discussion on the substitute motion?
Madam Moderator,
Yes.
I think what the bottom line means, Mr. May, is that if there are going to be subsequent offenses, is that eventually the owner of the vehicle may be cited if it's a company. That was my take on that. And if we remove that, then the owner may never be cited.
Any other discussion on the amended motion? Sure. I'm going to come to them.
I could speak loud enough. But that's my issue, is that the owner of the vehicle, not the, or the operator of the vehicle, not the owner of the vehicle necessarily, should be cited. Right, just like a speeding ticket, just like, the only thing that I think is different is the inspection sticker. Yeah. So I think just the operator should be cited, and that's it.
Any more discussion on the substitute motion? All those in favor of the substitute motion, please signify by saying yes. Yes. All those opposed? No. Can we have a show of hands of all the yeses on the substitute motion? On the substitute motion, can I see a raise of hands for yes? And those opposed, raise your hand for no. It's defeated at 9:43. On the main motion, any more discussion?
Dan Burden, 299 Royalston Road. I agree with Mark Machete.
These are a safety feature that's put on by the factory. Engineers designed this to assist in braking. It isn't even about the cost of the brakes, it's about safety. I was following my daughter's school bus down 68. The school bus driver ran the stop sign, pulled out onto 202. Luckily, the driver was able to engine brake, hard brake, and stop before he broadsided the school bus. So that would be an emergency situation, but who's to say? It's an incredible safety feature. I've drove trucks that didn't have them. The ones that do have them are way more safer. So it's, a lot of communities have certain areas, like he said, that you come up to a sign that says no engine braking. It's because it's a residential area, which I agree with, you know, but town-wide, it's ridiculous.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor of Article 11, please signify by saying yes. Yes. All those opposed? No. Passes at 9:45. Okay. Okay. Can I have the hand counters up here, please? Okay. We need one more counter. Yes, we need one more counter. Okay, all those in favor of Article 11, please raise your hands. All those in favor of Article 11, please raise your hands. Can you please raise your hands again? Thank you.
That wasn't easy.
All those opposed, please raise your hand. Advisory, you're all set. Article 11 passes, 50 yes and 43 no. At 9:49.
Article 12.
Mr. Moderator, Doug Morrison, Article 12. I move to amend Article 56, Sections 1 and 4 of the general bylaws by making certain deletions in strike-through and additions in bold italics as follows. Section 1, establish terms and conflicting service. There shall be a Veterans Advisory Board consisting of 7 residents of the town who shall be registered voters. Veterans appointed as members shall have received an honorable discharge for their service. Members shall be appointed by the Board of Selectmen for the term of 3 years, commencing on July 1st. The term shall be staggered such that no more than 2 members shall have their terms expire each year. Members shall serve until their successor is appointed and duly qualified. Town officers and town employees, elected or appointed, are not eligible to be members, provided, however, that the town's veteran service officer or designee shall serve as a non-voting ex officio member, provided, however, that this person shall be designated by the chairman as a voting member whenever the committee lacks a quorum because of a recusal of a member, or to provide a significant number of members to establish a quorum and conduct business. Any member of said board who shall be elected or appointed to the town office, except as provided for herein, shall forthwith, upon this qualification in such office, and any other member who shall move from town shall, upon moving, cease to be a member of said board. Members of the committee shall serve without compensation, provided, however, that the Veterans Services Officers' compensation, if any, or the salary of the Veteran Services Officer's designee may include compensation for time spent serving on the board. The board shall have a chairman and a clerk who shall act in the absence of the chairman. The board shall choose its own officers. And Section 4 is completely stricken.
Thank you. Second.
Diane Haley Brooks, I second that motion.
Thank you. Advisory Committee.
Mr. Moderator, the Advisory Committee recommends in favor of this article.
Thank you. Further discussion, Article 12. Mike.
James Fenner, 138 Patriots Road. Just want to point out that I like the law. I don't have a problem with the bylaw, but it says that you can only change 2 every year. You can't possibly change out 7 every 3 years. Somebody needs to fix that. It worked for 5, it won't work for 7. That's all.
Did you want an answer to that, or were you just making a statement? Just making a statement. The math doesn't appear to be correct. Understood. Okay, further
Mr. Moderator,
discussion?
Mike Dixon, 465 Patriots Road, Templeton. I just don't understand, why was the report, section 4, removed? I mean, this says it removes the requirement for them to send a report to the selectmen on an annual basis. Does that mean it doesn't go into the town report?
Yes, go ahead, absolutely, yep.
If I might, Carter Terenzini, Town Administrator, there is a general provision that all committees file an annual report in time for the production of the book in January, if I recall correctly. This provision conflicted with that, so they'll still have to file a report. They just won't have to do it in December. They'll do it at the same time as all other boards and committees.
Mr. Moderator.
Yes, go ahead.
Kaplis, I had a clerical error. It's no more than 3. I say again, 3, not 2.
Sir, does that answer your question? It was a clerical error. Okay, so that's clear. And the final copy to the town clerk would be typed up correctly. Okay. Further discussion, Article 12. Further discussion, Article 12. All in favor of Article 12 signify by saying yes. Yes. Opposed? Okay, that passed unanimously at 9:55. Article 13. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Mr. Moderator, at this
Yep.
time, I would like to move to reconsider Article 10.
Okay. Just one second. Sure. Yes, okay. Reconsidering, I apologize, I know I called the other article, but I didn't see you. Okay. You are reconsidering Article 10. We've already discussed reconsideration, we're not going to go over that again. Okay. Reconsider, you have a motion to reconsider, do I have a second? Second. Okay, we have a second on that. All in favor, I'm sorry, we are now open for discussion. I have to step down. Okay.
That's not why I did that.
Okay, so we're going to discuss reconsidering.
Yes, I believe at this point we should reconsider before either the meeting closes or adjourns for tonight. I don't know how long we're going to go. I believe it's important to reconsider this article because I believe there's some information from the advisory committee who voted in the negative for this, or there was a split vote for this. And I would like to ask them why.
Any other discussion on the reconsideration?
Yeah, Steve Drury Lane. One of the issues of reconsideration that hasn't been brought up was the fact that the police going to end up in court over this matter, and lots of money is going to be spent on police time, and it's going to be over what an open container is and how it was approached. The wording is terrible.
Okay, we're talking about the reconsideration.
Well, that's right. We're talking about reconsideration, but we have to have the concept of why. That's another reason that was not spoken.
Any other discussions?
I'm for
on
reconsideration, by the way.
So if you vote to reconsider, that means that we will talk about Article 10 again. If you vote no to reconsider, that means that Article 10 will be done. All those in favor of reconsidering Article 10 signify by saying yes. Yes. All those opposed? No. It was defeated at 9:59.
Yeah, Mr. Moderator, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting for tonight, seeing numbers are dwindling, people are walking out. I'd like to.
Just 1 second, I'm trying to get some clarification on that. Where did he go? Okay. You have a motion on the floor to adjourn the meeting? Is that that's what you're saying? Okay. Do you have a specific date and time? No, I understand that. I'll determine that part after the vote's taken. Do you have a specific date and time when you want to adjourn it to? Okay. Stop. Do I have a second on his motion? Second. It's been seconded. And that. Okay. It's open for discussion on the motion to adjourn. Mr. Jury?
I've been waiting for this for a long time. 18 Drury Lane, Templeton, Steve Drury. I know you know me, you just said my name. We don't have a quorum.
Mr. Jury?
We can continue right on through. We don't
Stop. I'm not going to entertain the quorum. We've gone over that many times. You've been told what to do about the quorum. This is a motion to adjourn. I'll understand your discussion.
Point of order.
Listen, I am talking. Stop.
Sure.
Okay? I will entertain discussion on the motion to adjourn. The quorum is not on the floor at this time.
May I speak to the fact that he spoke to that people were removing themselves from the meeting? That he brought this issue up.
You can.
Okay.
You can.
All right, and that has to do with the quorum.
It does not. We've gone over. There's
no
quorum. There is no quorum in our town meeting. We've gone over that.
That's correct. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
There's no quorum. You don't need anybody here. You can continue the meeting. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
We don't care how many people leave.
Okay, so that's your discussion. Further discussion on adjourning the meeting. Yep, go ahead.
Julie Farrell, 24 Myrtle Street. Am I correct that we're adjourning to tomorrow at 6?
No, that's a motion to adjourn to then.
Okay.
And that's what the discussion is for. Yes, no, whatever you want to.
All right. Well, is this venue available in our, like, town council, yourself?
It's a great question.
Don't know. Usually that is, like, there's planning beforehand.
There is.
Okay.
Yep.
Have there been plans in case this meeting went late to move it to a specific date?
Yep. We even have plans. If they filled this room, we could go into another room.
Okay.
Yes. So plans are in place.
All right.
But it's only a motion to discuss if we're going to adjourn right now.
Okay. So could we hear what those discussions were?
No. That's what you have the microphone for. Are you for it or against it? That's what you're discussing.
No, I want to know when we're going to continue this meeting. Are we continuing the meeting or adjourning the meeting?
Well, it depends if it's a yes vote or if it's a no vote.
What is the difference between adjourning and continuing?
There's no difference between adjourning and continuing. Adjourning and dismissing the meeting are two different things.
Okay.
So at the very, very, very end of the meeting, it will be dismissed.
Okay.
Adjourned or continued, recessed, whatever, is basically postponed to another date and time.
Right.
But it's up to the people in here if you want to continue it and end right now, or do you want to continue the meeting. That's what we're going to have discussion and vote on.
So we're just voting to continue the meeting at another time, and that time and place has not been determined.
No, we're discussing his motion on the floor to end it right now and start it again tomorrow at 6 p.m. That's what we're discussing. That's only his motion.
All right. Has discussion taken place amongst yourself, the town clerk, the Board of Selectmen, the superintendent of schools? Is this venue available tomorrow at 6
Yes, it is.
o'clock?
Yes, it is.
Are you available tomorrow?
Yep, everything is in
The Board of
place.
Selectmen, or, you know, whatever's here from the
Yes.
Board of Selectmen, are you available tomorrow night?
Yes, everything is in place,
Are you available?
if needed.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Further discussion?
Tony Joy, 8 Minute Man Drive. Due to the fact that there's over 30 articles, I'm against this motion for right now. I think there's a lot that we still need to get through, and we're going to end up, if we don't keep going for at least an undetermined amount of time, we're going to end up into late into tomorrow also, so I'm against this.
Thank you. Further discussion?
Mike Dixon, 465 Patriots Road. Some of us work out of town. Getting back for 6 o'clock is like crazy. So I would not be in favor of 6 o'clock.
Thank you. Further discussion?
Rick Moulton, 15 Mountain View Street, and also Facilities Director here. This building was reserved for tomorrow night, just to clear that up.
Thank you. Further discussion?
Steve Drury, 18 Drury Lane. I don't believe Dana gave a written motion to you.
Not on this particular one. You don't need a written motion.
You don't need a written motion
No.
to delay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Moderator.
Further discussion? Yes, go ahead.
I'm with Mr. Diane Haley Brooks, 83 Shady Lane. I'm with Mr. Dixon. I think that 6 o'clock is too early, and normally we have them at 7, just for dinner time and for people getting out of work. So I'm not in favor. I'm in favor of tomorrow night. I'm in favor of adjourning now, but I'm in favor of 7 o'clock.
Thank you. Further discussion?
Lee Guthrie, 6 Musket Drive. The question I would have is, we're not even halfway through tonight. Now, things might not be as contentious tomorrow, but what happens if we're not all the way through tomorrow night? Is this available on Friday evening? Or what would happen if we don't finish tomorrow night? So just keep going?
Yes. I've lived through
My understanding
5 nights.
is that we're going to continue until the meeting is completed. We would check further venue availability, that kind of thing. With any luck, it would be done tonight and tomorrow at the max. We're hoping.
So to lessen the risk of that, I would propose going to at least the halfway point of the articles, which would be approximately 17.
Okay, and that's exactly what the discussion is for. Your opinions, your voting, that's what it is. Further discussion on the motion.
Hi, Mary Enstrom, 49 Highland Avenue, Ballinville. I'm exhausted. I want to go home. I don't know about the rest of you. And if the school isn't available at 6 o'clock, can Dana just change it to 7 and let us go home?
Further discussion. Further discussion?
I'd like to amend Dana's motion to 7 o'clock tomorrow night to adjourn the meeting. Can I do that? Is 7 okay? 7
Yeah.
works.
Dana, you can't amend an motion unless you accept it, or if you want to change your motion.
Yeah, I'd like to change my motion to adjourn right now, and tomorrow, and we'll reconvene tomorrow night at 7 o'clock.
Okay, so the motion on the floor is to adjourn right now, well, soon, and to reconvene tomorrow night, same location, 7 p.m. Do you? Oh, you're, I'm like, okay, thank you, yes, second, got it. Okay. Any further discussion on that motion? Further discussion on that motion? The only thing all in favor of
Mr. Moderator, Steve Drury, 18 Drury Lane. Don't we have on the article for the school be brought back up in an hour or something?
No, it was already done. It was already done. Yes.
We do have one. We don't.
No.
It's already been done.
So it was already been
All
done,
right.
yes. Yes.
I just think for clarification.
Yep. All in favor of the motion signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed? No. It passed at 10:10. Please just hold your seats for 1 second, please. 1 second. Okay? Okay. You people are contesting the vote? 7? Okay. The reason why I'm delaying this is I want to make this clear. Whatever time we end tonight, okay, whether it be now or later on, I'm going to give an opportunity for reconsideration within that 1 hour, like you're talking about, Mr. Jury, for the recent articles. Because obviously many hours are going to pass between now and tomorrow night. So if you have a recent article, it falls within those guidelines, I will take it before this meeting ends. Tomorrow we will not pick it up and give you that 1 hour extension. Hand counters, please. Another thing is, too, if you filled out the questionnaires, they can be given to Carol, please. I see 2. I need my 2 more. Where am I? Have I only got 4? I got 5. Did we lose another one? I need 1 hand counter, please. Somebody. Sure, come on down, sir. Okay, please, if you are in favor of the motion, all in favor, raise your hand and keep them raised, please. Raise your hand, keep them raised. You guys are all set? Yep. Advisory committee's all set. If you are opposed to the motion, it is a no. Raise your hand, keep them raised until you're counted, please. Advisory committee's all set. Yep. Okay, with a hand count of 61 for yes, 22 for no, the yes has it. Again, 1 second, please, don't leave. Please don't leave. We're going to give you the opportunity that if you have an article you want reconsideration, I will entertain any motion for the reconsideration. If not, I'm going to call the meeting. Again, anybody for reconsideration on the recent articles? And that is 1 through 12. And we're going to start off with 13. We're going to start off with 13. Okay. 7 p.m. tomorrow night here. And the meeting is adjourned at 10:16. Thank you.